questions or anything you'd like to bring up on the show, would you like to maybe join us and ask some questions? We're having technical difficulties on the other side. All righty. Thank you so much for joining the I Talk Back Sports Show. I'm joined by Jamal Bonner in New Jersey. Jamal,
Okay.
say hi, people.
Hey.
Okay. All right. So, Jamal, would you like to give a shout out?
Yes, Kay. I would love to get a shout out to Odell Beckham Jr. for making our game against the Giants of interest to see if he'll actually show up or not. So, Odell, thank you for a little added drama to our our game one matchup of the upcoming season. What about you, Kay?
All right. I want to say to all the children and the adults heading back to school, I wish you all a successful school year. And that's just about it for me. Is there someone you'd like to introduce us to, Jamal?
Well, as a matter of fact, I would love to. We have an in New Jersey guest, a friend of mine, Equi Wabazor, who is an attorney and a semi lifelong Jets fan, and she's going to be our third host this evening, joining us. So, Equi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
And Equi, since you are one of our co hosts, who would you like to give a shout out to tonight?
I would like to give a shout out to all the men and women who will be playing in the U.S. Open starting next week. Go Queens.
Oh, okay. Good, good. Yes, yes. The U.S. Open, absolutely. Yes.
All right. So Saturday is the day. We have the Floyd Mayweather, Conor McGregor money match, money fight. Jamal is finally here. What are you thinking about this?
I'm mixed emotions. I'm looking forward to seeing McGregor knock out Mayweather and to make history, make things a little bit more interesting in life, rather than just Mayweather just tapping and getting points all along the way. So McGregor for the knockout. I'm looking forward to it. What about you, Equi? What do you think about Saturday's fight?
Besides it being, besides the 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 lead up being a pure spectacle, I expect the actual fight to be extremely boring and for Mayweather to dominate.
Kay, what about you?
I don't think that, as she says, a spectacle. It won't live up to the hype. I don't really know what we're going to see or what we should expect. I know for the amount of money that's being charged, I just don't know if it'll live up to the bill. So,
I feel like rolling into a bar might, make it a little more interesting. Get some,
right.
specialized cocktails made while you're watching this wonderful slugfest.
And hope the match won't be done by the time the drink is made. So, yeah.
No, Mayweather's going for points. That match is going to take who knows how long.
All right. Well, we'll definitely see. There was a rally today
Mm-hmm.
in New York City, Jamal. Which you, since you're closer to the action, would you like to say anything about the rally for Kaepernick?
I would love to say something about the rally for Kaepernick in terms of I have absolute support for the rally and that I unfortunately was not able to attend even though I was nearby, but it is something that it's good that the fans are coming forward and speaking towards Kaepernick and getting the NFL to understand that it's more than just a we can kind of sweep this under the rug thing. People are paying attention and somebody needs to put this man on their team. What about you, Eckley?
I was very pleased to hear, and ESPN covered it a bit, and I had a few friends who attended the rally and said that the vibe there very very good. That it was just very heartening to see lots of people come out for a cause and it be a positive thing. So it was really great to see that a lot of people put their mouths or put their feet where their mouths were and actually showed up for the rally, and there was no shenanigans or anything like that. So it was really positive.
What about you, Kay?
Hello?
Kay?
Yes, yes, I'm here. Okay. So what did you ask?
I asked, what about you? What were your thoughts on the rally, even though you weren't actually in New York?
Well, yeah, I'm nowhere near there, that place that the rally is occurring at. I just think, as I said a couple of weeks ago, it's a symbolism type thing. They're out showing their support, and that's definitely important. I don't think that by them coming out there and rallying and showing their support that it'll actually do anything as far as the league is concerned, because I think they've pretty much made up their mind about what they want to do with this situation. So,
Can I follow up from that?
okay.
Do you think that any players are going to actually take a seat and boycott games?
I think that is the most effective route to take if they're serious about making change, or if they're serious about maybe in the future this sort of thing not happening to them. This is definitely the route to take. I mean, the consumer can only do so much, but it's their job, it's their employer, and I feel that it is most important that they stand up for themselves and for their brother, so to speak, of the game. By sitting out collectively, they can definitely do more than we can do as consumers.
Okay. Equate, do you have anything in terms of thoughts on players actually boycotting games making a bigger difference versus.
I think that if any true change is going to happen, there's going to need to be dramatic. There's going to have to be some drama. Players are going to have to make sacrifices in the form of missing games, not taking or being willing to drop endorsement contracts, being willing to, when the CBA comes up again for negotiation, being willing to strike and to sit out games en masse. But to the point now, I think that if individuals want to see change, there have to be some that take the stance of, I'm not going to play.
Okay, that makes absolute sense.
All right, Jamal. I know you were saying the other day you were reading something about players needing to go ahead and save their money and not be so, you know, miss, what is the word? Um, they need to be more frugal going into this next agreement. And
It's. I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
There was an article on ESPN yesterday that I ran across that the heads of the union sound as though they're starting to rattle sabers early and are saying they're looking at 2021 as probably being lockout year, and they are making it known throughout the union that you all better start saving money because we're going hardcore, and if that means there's no football, there's no football. But they really are trying to get across that they are really pushing towards certain changes, and that they will try not to back down from the owners this time, unlike the previous lockouts and strikes where they ultimately just kind of caved in. So, I like the fact that this year, 4 years ahead of the end of the CBA, that you're saying yeah, we're going to be doing this. It sounds like from a public standpoint that it's letting fans be aware and that they're trying to make sure that they get out in front of this. They're not being painted as the villain like they usually are. We'll see what happens, but you have different thoughts?
Slightly, but not significantly. I think the Players Association, for the past, for its existence, has been remiss in actually doing the things that it needs to do to protect its players. And so it's really great to see them being proactive and letting players know that, oh, this is going to be a hard fight, and yes, you should save your money, but this is a union. This is a collective group of people. Why isn't there a collective effort to make sure that there are funds available? Not everybody makes $6 million a year in the league. Not everyone can, even if they have 4 years advance notice, save enough to provide for themselves and their families once the strike comes out. So I would like to know, and hope that maybe they're doing this in the background, that they are making provisions for those players, because those players are still just as integral to the league as, our Odell Beckhams, our Le'Veon Bells, our butt-chin Brady players. So, they just need to be more cognizant or think bigger than they've been doing up until now, in my opinion. How about you, Kay?
I definitely agree with you. But, I think a lot of athletes, they just figure they have so little time and they're just trying to get what they can get while they can, instead of wanting to be a leader or maybe pave the path for people coming behind them. I think the last time they gave up way too easy, and they just took the first thing coming because they were ready to play or ready to get a check. So hopefully they can have someone walk them kind of through the process, what to expect beforehand. And then that way they can be more successful in the things that they feel that they need, instead of just going along with the flow, because that's definitely not productive to the actual player. But it is very productive and lucrative for the league when they do that.
I also think that this time around, they have more examples of successful collective bargaining agreements done by other leagues in ways that actually protected those players. So if you look at the NBA agreement and the terms that they were able to negotiate from their league, it's leaps and bounds above in terms of player rights than anything that the NFL has. The same with the baseball, with Major League Baseball. So looking at those things and considering that baseball and the NBA do not have the same life-threatening consequences that playing in the NFL does, that maybe this year, or maybe when the CBA is actually negotiated, and assuming that the Players Association presents terms that are actually protective of those aspects of players' lives, and they will be willing to hold out to the extent that they need to make sure that their lives after football are healthy and prosperous.
So, if I can ask a quick question, Kate, since we do have a guest on our show this evening, Ezekiel Elliott, what are your thoughts? Just forget the fact that you're sitting with two Cowboy fans. Just
I know, that's why I'm choked up. I'm trying to.
One is very level-headed about things that goes on with the club, so you can't possibly offend me with the truth. So.
Okay. Wait, that's not me. I'm not level. Okay.
So, our friend Zeke. I don't know what happened. The only two people that actually know what happened are Ezekiel Elliott and I forget the woman.
I believe it's Tiffany Thompson. I believe that's the name.
I forget her.
We'll
name.
call the victim.
The victim.
The alleged
victim. Thank you. Thank you. The alleged victim. The accuser. There we
The
go.
accuser.
Yes.
And nobody knows. However, the fact that Ezekiel's camp was unwilling to give the NFL, or was reluctant to give the NFL these texts and supporting evidence, which drug out this investigation, well, at least according to the NFL, drug out the investigation longer than it possibly should have. The fact that the retort that they had, that Zeke's camp had to his suspension, was to instantly malign this woman and point to those same texts or portions of those texts to paint her as the quote-unquote crazy woman, makes me wary of his point of view and more willing to believe the victim / accuser.
Okay.
Not to say that women don't do crazy things, women don't threaten and say crazy things, but bottom line, no matter how much a woman is yelling and screaming and whatever, you are a football player who is multiples of strength stronger than this woman. If you put your hands on her, you're wrong. Period. Full stop. And that's how I see it. I don't think Zeke is going to get his suspension lowered. The NFL, from the NFL standpoint, they took too long to make this ruling in the auspices of, oh, we're doing a real investigation. We're going to make sure that we, quote unquote, get this one right. There's no way. And if Zeke presents more new evidence, why didn't you present that before so that we could, in this year and a half that we had to make this decision, they're not going to think that evidence is dispositive of anything. And so I think is going to stand, and Zeke all Zeke has to show for it is that he's willing to throw either throw a punch at a woman and or throw that same woman under the bus for the sake of his career. Those are just my non-cowboy fan thoughts. Jamal?
I've already gone on the record. I have questions about her from not this latest go-round, but from last year when there was the original NFL investigation and this was being leaked out through the NFL, the information that the attorneys are speaking of now. And in terms of her credibility, the question of her credibility, also the district attorney never pressed charges. They've had an opportunity to press charges. They didn't. They haven't even come back and talked about trying to press charges. Yes.
We have to remember that the burden of proof, I know I'm an attorney and I'm talking attorney things, but the burden of proof for a criminal investigation is much higher than anything that you and I would face if our jobs were accusing us of doing something. When you're talking about taking somebody's freedom away, one would hope that you would want to have a prosecution that is pretty much open and shut, right? They have to have really great, credible evidence. However, if I wanted to sue you over those same actions, because it's just, it's quote unquote just your money that's at stake, there's a lower threshold for the things that I have to prove in order to win that case. And I don't think there's anything wrong with the NFL saying, you know what, in order for you to play in our league, you have to abide by certain standards. You have to present yourself in a certain way, and if you don't present yourself in that certain way, and if there's evidence that it's more likely than not that you didn't do that, then we're going to suspend you, throw you out, all those sorts of things. I don't see anything wrong with that. The problem that I have is that the NFL, instead of being very clear and saying what its standards are, and saying that even though and being very clear that even though this doesn't rise to the level of criminal conduct, this is still not conduct that is befitting our league. And if they would say that in a succinct and cohesive way, and if they would be consistent in applying that standard, I think that a lot of people wouldn't have as many issues with this Zeke suspension as they do. That being said, this, I think, is the first time they had an opportunity to get it right. I'm not saying that I feel like they got a B-, C+ in getting it right, but it's the first time that they passed. First time.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if they passed or they failed. I don't know if Ezekiel did it or he didn't. I know that it shouldn't take as long as it did for them to come with a ruling. I think they need to kind of fine-tune that a little bit.
Absolutely.
Because no one should have to wait that long to know whether or not they're going to go out on the field. And I'm, maybe it's something on Zeke's part. Maybe they advised him not to produce the information. It's a lot of things that we just don't know, and we won't ever know about this thing. But it just doesn't look good on either one of their parts. That's just how I feel about it.
Fair enough. Speaking of feelings,
Jamal, this is a sports show.
Speaking of feelings,
the man is talking about his feelings.
Actually, I want to talk about Equi's feelings. You see, it's well known that the two of us are big Cowboy fans, Kay and I, but you are a fan of the Jets.
Yes. Proud to be a fan of the Jets. Jets. Jets.
Since we don't play you, we're kind of fine with you being on our show. But what has happened with your team in the last few years from your vantage point? What do you see?
Can I be real?
Yes, son, you can be real.
Of course.
Be real, son.
In my humble opinion, the problem is Woody Johnson.
The owner of the Jets.
The owner of the Jets.
Okay.
He is not interested in actually owning a football team. He is actually interested in all of the privileges and stuff that comes with owning a football team. The actual minutia, the actual work, the actual brain power, which to my knowledge he is, if he actually possesses it, he hasn't actually evidenced that in any aspect of his life. He's just not interested in doing the work, and not even interested enough to hire good people to do the work for him. And as such, you can't have a team that doesn't have at some level someone who is truly invested in that team succeeding. And that's the problem with the Jets.
Interesting.
My life's goal and purpose is to figure out a way to get the team out of his hands.
Well,
that's deep.
Keeping it real.
That was real. That's what I was
real,
about to
son.
say. That's real. Yes, we like that here.
That's real.
Okay.
So the one of the reasons that we have Equi on the show with us is there is a movement, and for some people, they've seen the Facebook posts of the blackout, of the idea of boycotting the NFL, fantasy football, NFL merchandise, and watching the games. Some friends of mine have stated that they are going to be participating in a boycott even before the blackout became really known. And one person in particular is taking away a long-owned fantasy football team this year that we've co-owned, but we won't get into that right now. But Equi, you are one of those people who's voiced a dissatisfaction with the NFL, especially in recent months. What has you looking at not watching NFL games this year?
So, let me just preface this by saying that I love sports in general, but football is by far the sport that I love to watch the most. I have been watching football since I was 5 years old. I have been an avid football fan. I've been playing fantasy football since 1996 when we were doing it with newspapers. Mm-hmm. We didn't have no fancy computer websites in order to calculate points. That's how deep my love for football goes. However, as I've become more conscious of the way I can manifest change in the world and how the things that I spend my time and energy and money doing can affect those things, can affect and manifest change. Over the past 2 years, it became a serious thought of mine that I can't have this stance about various issues in my life and still love and support the NFL. And it became crystal clear last year after the league's response to Colin Kaepernick's protest that it was unless something radically changed, I could not support an organization that did not support me as a Black person as a woman. They have shown zero concern for me and the things that I am interested in. Number one, it's a sport in which it is the only sport in which it's the only major sport in which there is not a Black owner, a Black majority owner, which is highly problematic considering it's 2017, and it's not like there aren't enough people of color to have to buy ownership interests. There's something going on there. Two, they don't actually care about their players, who a majority of them are Black. They don't care about if they became or are addicted to pain-killing or other substances because of the effect that the sport has on their body. They have, as long as they can say, oh, well, drugs are bad and you were taking drugs, therefore we're going to suspend you. That's all they care about. They have very little to no support for those people once they've decided that they do not fit into the NFL's code and are not properly reflecting the values of the NFL. They don't care about the players' bodies or brains. You don't think that in this day and age, with all of the resources that the NFL has behind them, that they couldn't figure out before 2 years ago, maybe we should be teaching kids and players how to tackle differently. Maybe we should be putting our money and resources into figuring out how to make a better helmet. None of those things occurred to them until they were sued. So that's highly problematic. The fact that I don't think anyone would deny, or I would find it very difficult for someone to say with a straight face that there are no LGBT players in the NFL. However, the NFL has not done anything to make it a safe space for those players to come out while they're playing. It's only after that they leave that they feel free to come out of the closet, and that's antithetical to my beliefs about how life in the world should be. Further, they don't really care about women in general. They don't care about their female fans, except that now we have pink jerseys. Yay, thanks. They don't have they just hired one female coach, but there are female football coaches everywhere, and not one of them up until just now has made it into the NFL. We got a first women referee last year, and they think that by wearing that, pink equipment and that breast cancer awareness month, that yay, we support women. That's not it. There's so much more and so many other ways that you could be supporting women. And if you only looked to the other professional sports leagues around you, you would see really good examples of how that is done, but they're completely unwilling to do that. Is that it? No. And and they're also not interested in having their players or giving them the correct tools in order to build and sustain the wealth they've acquired while being in the NFL. That's not a hard thing. You hire an investment firm to come teach these kids how to do this. You make a collective investment fund, an actual lucrative pension that will actually cover all of their needs after they've left the NFL. That's not a hard thing to do if you're actually concerned about the well-being of your players. And so given all of that, and the fact that they won't even let one of their own players speak his mind about what's going on, not only just in the NFL, but what's going around in the world, that was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back and said that I can't continue giving my time, which was something like 10 hours of my Sunday, not to mention all the time that I spent looking up and drafting and doing fantasy football and being upset that I have to watch 100 million Thursday games. All that time and effort.
I think you're making very excellent points and things that I have not even thought of myself. So what has to happen, and what has to happen for you to come back?
I think there needs to be an acknowledgement from Goodell, at the very least, that these are issues that they're willing to confront. And then I will consider watching the games again. I mean, I'm not watching the games, but I already paid for cable. But I'm still not attending games. I'm still not buying merchandise unless there are actual concrete things done. But I think that in order to get me back watching and possibly playing fantasy again, there'd have to be some acknowledgement, and at least 3 of those issues from Goodell or from the league or even the Players Association, that these are things that they are truly concerned with fixing.
Okay. Jamal, would you like to say anything before we move on to basketball?
I've I've had time to reflect, and it is difficult for me in the position that we do a show and the majority of the content of our show is based upon football, specifically the NFL, and that I enjoy doing our show and I need to know what to speak on and have at least some sort of familiarity with what's going on in the NFL. I don't support the policies of what you've spoken on, just line by line by line. And it is something that does bother me. It's taken some of the normal shine off of what is going to be, I hope, a good year for my team. But between Ezekiel and somebody who doesn't even play for my team, it's going to be an interesting year. It's going to be, right now, I'm not jumping up and down about the beginning of the NFL season. I wish I could boycott as well, but I can't. And for me, it would take more than an acknowledgement to be satisfied that I see the NFL making some changes, but it does disturb me, this sort of old boys network that's running this organization that could be so much more. And yeah.
Jamal, I definitely agree. It's old boys, but it doesn't have to be that way. All we need is for them to band together. There is power in numbers. And if they all get on one accord, then they can make this anything that they want to, because they are the talent. They're the product. Okay. You just have the league pimping them. You know what I'm saying? So to speak. So, I mean, if you're going to keep letting them be your pimp, or you're going to stand up for the things that you want, because you are the one sacrificing your future and your body every time you walk out on the field, not just on game day. That's what I have to say about that.
Amen.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move forward with the trade that happened last night, Jamal.
There was a trade?
Yes, there was a quote-unquote blockbuster trade, Jamal.
Who did the Lakers get? Who did we get?
Lakers, they'll have to wait.
What?
They'll have to wait.
Did you get LeBron?
Did not get LeBron. Not yet. Okay. But
hopefully not.
Something LeBron related happened.
All right.
So you and I, we had the conversation. I say that it's jumping out of one frying pan into another. It's a lateral move. I say that it makes no difference. Cleveland is still where they were yesterday morning, okay? They are still the contender, the person to beat in the Eastern Conference, okay? Mm-hmm. So, Jamal, what do you think about this? What do you think about the trade?
You and I did go back and forth on this, and I like the trade for Boston because it builds towards a real future, and it doesn't really do a lot for them this year, I don't feel. I think that it's the coming years with the draft picks, and that with the idea that at some point they're going to get another point guard to relieve the point guard duties from Kyrie Irving, and still kept a large majority of their nucleus, and they picked up, who was the kid from Utah?
Yeah, the guy that left. I don't know his name.
Yeah, okay.
So we know who he is.
Yes.
He left Utah brokenhearted. Yes. Okay, keep going.
I am looking forward. No, that's actually not true. I think that Boston has a really good future. In terms of this year, however, I think that Cleveland won the trade in the short term. That you got a very good point guard if he's healthy. Jay Crowder, somebody else to help hit the boards and play some defense, take some of the pressure off of Tristan Thompson. And you also got an unprotected first-round draft pick from the Brooklyn Nets, which more than likely will be... Go away, Equi. So, from the Cleveland standpoint, it looks great for this year. Now, at the end of next year, when LeBron takes his game west, I hope that draft pick comes out to be something special because, purple and gold for LeBron. Equi, what you think about this?
I'm offended by this purple and gold LeBron thing, so I'm just gonna try and put that aside for 1 second and actually address the trade that's happened right now. I agree with you, Jamal, on most of your points. I think that this is definitely a win for the Cavs, not only for all the things that you mentioned, but also because they now have a point guard that could actually be a full-time point guard and who might actually be willing to listen to LeBron and to actually use the spectacular basketball mind that LeBron James has in order to improve his game.
Oh my God.
And that's all I have to say about that.
Kay, why don't you go ahead and fill them in on what you told me?
Okay, what did I tell you?
About the trade.
Hello.
Could you hold on, sir, please? Okay, so what did I tell you about the trade? What are you saying?
What were your thoughts on the trade when you talked about it yesterday?
I just say it's a lateral move. I mean, taking one person from one spot and then moving them to the other. I don't think that we give in to crybabies. When do we give in to crybabies? I want to go. I want to go. Right. No, sit down.
Bye.
When do we start doing this? Okay? Just because you feel some kind of way as a man in your feelings, you just don't go all the way to another organization, okay? I don't think that this is going to work out the way Cleveland expects. I feel that they are going to be in a rebuilding phase for quite some time. Cleveland, they don't know what they want to do because they just going by what LeBron want to do. And as soon as LeBron leaves, then they'll be back in the same position that they were when Kyrie was there for the first time. That's what I think.
The only thing I would like to add is my parting words to Kyrie Irving is in the immortal words of Kang Bae, boy, bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys. So we have another guest on the line. We have Eddie Alexander Jr. out of Oak Cliff, Texas. Eddie, would you like to say hello to the people?
Hello, everyone, and how are y'all tonight? Thank you for inviting me, Miss B.K. Newton.
Yes, sir. No problem. We invited Eddie on the show last week when we were talking about some social issues, but his little schedule would permit. But this week we got him, okay? And what I want Eddie to talk about is the 30 for 30 that's coming out tomorrow about Carter High School. It's entitled What Carter Lost. Now, Eddie, we're from Oak Cliff, okay? You knew me when I was I was a little grasshopper, so to speak, a very young child, okay? Right. But you're much older than I, and you actually attended Carter during these times. So can you just tell us a little bit about the atmosphere of going to that school at that time and kind of how times were then?
Okay. During those times, it was great times. All of us are still riding real high off that championship deal. Now, I was a graduating class of 88, so the class of 89 won that at football season of 88. But the community itself, it was very vibrant. The whole school itself, everyone in there, not just the football team, everyone who attended there was very competitive as far as the way we walked, talked, dressed, kind of cars we drove, everything. It didn't make us bougie. We just wanted more,
Okay. So we're going to move towards after this championship, maybe when some of the things happened that weren't so favorable with the players. We're not going to get into what happened. We're just going to talk about like what happened after they were sentenced to, time. How was the city or that part of the city? How were things going in that community after that happened?
Oh man, it took everyone kind of fast. especially the parents, because they didn't know what we was all getting into after school, because everybody, our moms worked and dads worked and had the things going on. I know, like after that, as far as myself, as far as job hopping and trying to get a career going, it was very hard. I was always stagnated by the people that was doing the interview, but questioning about what went on at that school. I'm like, man, what that has to do with me trying to get a job. So that was one deterrent that made it real hard for us trying to grow and coming to our own,
Eddie, I never thought about that. Kind of the stigma that was attached to a lot of people
Yes.
from that school, going forward in their lives, even if they had nothing to do with the crimes that were going on. That's a very good point. I was talking to a friend the other day about, this special and kind of how parents, I guess, kind of move further south with their children, maybe to Cedar Hill, Lancaster, Duncanville, DeSoto, instead of staying in the Oak Cliff area and then having that talent go either to Carter or Kimball. Do you think that's true?
Well, to me, what I know from the kids that I attended school with at Carter, a lot of our parents came from South Dallas, like my mom and dad and so many other people. Mom and dad went to either Lincoln or Madison or Pinkston. So therefore, as they grew up and wanted more for their kids, that's why we moved to the southern part of Oak Cliff. So then, of course, that pushed the other people out to the Cedar Hill and Duncanville area. So in order for us to feel like we were going to do better than our parents, we did the same thing they did with the move south. Those of us who were fortunate to do so. But right now, as it stands, the Redbird area has a Redbird revitalization program going on. And one person that's leading the charge is Mr. Eric Williams. He's a candidate for the next city council member. He also ran against Etta Bernice Johnson. He also went to Carter High School. He's a graduate of class of 85.
Okay.
Yeah, so we know it's, in other words, DeSoto, Duncanville, Lancaster, Cedar Hill, it's nothing but the new Oak Cliff. You know what I mean?
Yes, but we still want Oak Cliff to rise up because we know that it's a powerful area. A lot of good people come out of that area, but that's my only concern is I want them to rise up and to go back to not those days, but better days as a community. Jamal, do you have any questions you would like to ask?
Hey, Eddie, I am very thankful that you came on to speak to us this evening. I'm probably about your age, but I didn't live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I lived in Austin at the time that this took place. After it took place, for you, not down the road, but for you in the immediate aftermath, what was it for you? What was it like?
Man, it was hard. It was heart-wrenching because they made it they made a, how can I put this? They made an example out of those boys, and they was young. They didn't know no better. Well, they knew right from wrong because we was all raised in good prominent homes over here. A lot of people have the misconception of this part of Oak Cliff is being ghetto or nothing. No, this is not a hood. This is a neighborhood. It's airports. It's Red Lobsters. It's Olive Garden. It's a shopping mall with Macy's. I mean, it's a very thriving African-American community. So to watch the media portray us as, we were amongst the have-nots, it wasn't not true, Did I answer your question?
Absolutely, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
What do you see that could take place because what I've seen from afar is that Dallas Carter, after these events took place, and definitely out of the eye of national prominence in terms of its then wonderful football program. But what can you see, or has there been a rehabilitation taking place in terms of specifically the football program and the way Dallas Carter is looked upon?
With the movie that came out last year, that put it back on the map for everybody to look and see what they are going to be doing in the future. So therefore, I believe that riding high like they was after the championship was won, and by them being their standards had lowered, not no longer in national contingencies. I see that the way they want to get back to that. I see a good future in that because we want that in this community. We, this little light of ours over here needs to shine because it's been dimmed by the media throughout the years.
Okay. Well, Eddie, I thank you so much for coming on to the show. You are definitely welcome at any time to bring on your insight because it's definitely a very educated opinion. And, I think you have a good ear to the ground. So I thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Thank you, Ms. Newton. I appreciate you having me on today.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you, Eddie.
Thank you.
Equity. Okay, so Equity, do you have any parting statements, comments, complaints about Jamal that you would like to leave with?
I just wanted to thank you so much for letting me come here and talk about my favorite things in the world. I guess go tennis, because that's all I'm going to be able to watch.
Serena lists tennis at that. Oh my God. Okay, Jamal, what you got? What you got for me? What you gonna leave me with?
Le'Veon Bell is intentionally sitting out the preseason, and it is a move that I think the NFL needs to look at. They need to study, and they need to shorten the preseason. We say this every year, and each year we go into the preseason excited because we get something in terms of action before the start of the season, and in preseason, the injuries just hit, just worse than game one of the season. The injuries in preseason, they suck, and I honestly don't see a reason why there are 4 games, 5 games if you play in the Hall of Fame game. Preseason honestly really just needs to be some controlled scrimmaging, and then maybe 1 actual game. And after that, let's start it. Because beyond that, it's window dressing for players who, honestly, they're not going to make the squad. It's rare that a free agent or undrafted free agent makes the squad. And even if they are someone who is killing it in practice, that it doesn't take 4 preseason games for you to figure out you want this person on your squad. You know in practice, day 2 or 3, that this is somebody that you want. So let's get rid of these games. And why are we paying for preseason games? Why are we paying for these? They're not real. They're exhibition. Why are you making us pay for exhibition? That's just ridiculous.
That's why they're not going to get rid of the preseason games.
Why? No, that's not good enough for me because now you're telling me that you're really just being
greedy.
And
the
greedy.
NFL greedy? Oh my God!
Okay.
Really?
Okay.
Maybe they can donate the proceeds to the preseason, maybe to some domestic violence or some career training for some type of individuals or something. That's just an idea.
That is an idea. Do you have any final thoughts, Kay?
Well, I'm talking with you guys, and I just really realized that I'm kind of in between the two of you, okay? I'm fired up about a lot of things. But then again, I kind of want to do this as a profession. So it's probably not the wisest thing just to not to look and watch. But there has to be a middle ground. I don't think that we as viewers or fans should have more passion for the rules and regulations of someone else's job. I mean, don't nobody care what happens at the hospital, okay? I'm just saying.
This is true.
We're very concerned about what's happening on these people's jobs. We just need them to be as concerned as we are. And then at that point, maybe things will change. So that's all I got on that. It was a very good show, Jamal and Equi. Thank you so much to Eddie for joining us. And we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.